Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Al. And Linda. Much appreciated. Good morning. It's great to have so many faces and lots of new faces as well. That's really, really amazing. So yes, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Sam-Ogunbiyi. I'm a general surgeon. I live locally here in Innisfil. We moved up to Innisfil, I want to say 6-7 years ago from Etobicoke in Toronto, and we're loving it here. We enjoy the church here, and I'm ably supported, I should say, by an amazing wife. Her name is Fola, and she's also a physician. She's a family physician, and we've been tasked to talk about mental health. I'm very optimistic for you all. By the time you ask a surgeon to talk about mental health, you have a lot of faith. So I'll pass the phone across to my wonderful wife.
Morning, everyone. Morning. Thank you, wonderful husband. Well, we're really privileged to be able to share with us all this morning. This is a talk I think I've been giving to the women. I think this is the third or the fourth one for a few years now, and we've all been so blessed. I mean, I leave the place feeling blessed, being reminded of the things that help. And we would love this to be like interactive. So we're just going to transmit for a really short time. So we've got ourselves on a timer, and then we'd love to take questions. So if you all feel comfortable coming up to ask your question or standing up to ask your question, you can write it on a piece of paper and give it to Tina or Steve or anyone to pass it so we can share, because we want it to be relevant. We just don't want to give you facts. We want it to be a relevant and uplifting time, and we pray and we believe God is going to bless us all as we share together today about mental health. So just as by way of introduction, why is it pertinent to talk about mental health? Apart from the fact that in Canada, February is the coldest month of the year, we do tend to see a spike in admissions to hospital, increased suicide, worsening mental health because of the winter months. But because of life generally. So I guess, that's one reason. Another reason is because at the moment we have an epidemic, a mental health epidemic going on. And it's a fallout from just the way we've all been living our lives on the go, and then 3 years ago, we all got hit by something no one was expected. The COVID pandemic started, and the whole world, just initially came to a standstill, and then we had to start grappling with what we're going to do about this new virus that's killing people, or for some people not killing people, whatever side of the fence you're on, whatever your beliefs are on that, but we can all agree that it impacted our lives in one way or the other. And so the fallout from that is that we've seen a lot of increased anxiety, increased depression, increased turning to something else as a crutch, addictions, and that has been on the increase. Then when you then add, war in a far place, which somehow seems to affect your gas prices, interest rates going up, you just find out that, everywhere, everyone's a bit more tense and stressed, and guess what? Christians are not immune. We're not immune. We were affected by it, just the same way as the world.
So I guess, if I'm hearing you right, the question is not who has mental health problems. The question is, what mental health problem do I have? Do you think that's reasonable? And I guess the good news is, I believe God has a solution, and there is help. Because my Bible says, for my strength, God's strength, is made perfect in our weakness.
So we're going to talk briefly about the common mental health problems. And the first one, which we'll talk a little bit about, is anxiety, because it is everywhere. And it's not a case of, oh, she has anxiety, I don't. It's a case of, how is anxiety affecting me? Because it is affecting everyone. Some have it under control, and sometimes we don't. And the pendulum, swings. WHO told us before COVID hit that in 2019, 301 million people were living with anxiety, some form of anxiety disorder or the other. That's a lot of people. And those are people that have been diagnosed. Now, the thinking is for every one person that's diagnosed, there's like 3 or 4 people who go through life without a diagnosis or without somebody telling them the way you're behaving is just your anxiety. So, anxiety is something that we all have. And some psychologists say that we all need some degree of anxiety to be our best. For example, when I was coming up, I was like, oh my God, I need to get this right. That's a degree of anxiety. And that's normal. Because I don't do this every day. Usually every day I talk to my kids and I talk to patients, that's all. But I don't talk to a room full of people, so it's natural to be anxious. But when that anxiety gets in the way of you doing what you want to do, or gets in the way of you doing what you have to do, then it becomes a problem. And a lot of us are living with that. But there is help. So,
Actually, I'm going to go off script here, because when you were talking, I started thinking about how anxious I get the day before I have a big operation to do. And I play the procedure over and over in my mind, and I wake up in the morning thinking about it, and I'm constantly ruminating over each and every step, and I think, I think in that area I could do it right. Yes. Now, the other thing is, apart from anxiety, a big one is depression. Depression has 2 different buckets. You have what we call clinical depression, which is depression because there's something wrong. And this could be probably either organically wrong or some form of chemical imbalance. And then you have reactive depression, which could be circumstantial because something has happened in a person's environment or their social circumstances that have changed a normal pathway that they follow. Other big buckets of mental health problems are addictions. And addictions could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be pornography, and unfortunately in this our current day and age, a very big addiction is our phones and social media. And that's one that most of us are reluctant to admit, but actually it's probably becoming bigger than all the other ones put together.
So just quickly run through the other forms of mental health, the common ones. There's post-traumatic stress disorder, and I went to a talk, was it last year, last year, and somebody said, if you are alive today, you are going through some degree of post-traumatic stress disorder, because you don't have to go to war to have that. Just being alive because you've gone through the last 3 years has left a lot of stress, and how are we managing that? The other one that we're seeing a big increase is dementia, because as we get older, and the age at which is being diagnosed is getting younger and younger. And it's not just, old people forgetting where they are. It could just be you're losing executive function. That's the ability to keep your life organized. That just falling apart. And it's showing up in different things. And then eating disorders in our younger ones. Especially for those of us who have kids, just to be aware. When your teenage girls, start to change their eating habits, or even boys, we're seeing them now. And then there is bipolar disorder, which can manifest just generally as we're not sure, are you down or are you not down, up today, down tomorrow. So there are different manifestations of that, but those are the common ones and we wouldn't spend too much time on.
So a typical example of a post-traumatic stress disorder is weak. If one of my colleagues is away, and I have to cover the hospital on call for a week, at the end of the week, I am mentally and physically drained. How does this manifest? Okay? When I come into church and somebody on my table said, "Oh, sometimes you walk straight by me." When I come into church and you think, "Oh, I don't see anything all around me," it's because I probably am zoned out, dazed out. I think maybe the equivalent would be if somebody's on drugs, completely stoned. I'm physically, mentally drained and tired. And so my ability to recognize people, my ability to say hello, my ability to chat goes from there all the way down to there. So that is a typical example of post-traumatic stress. And I know it, I recognize it. It takes me about 24, maybe 48 hours to fully recover, and then I realize I click, I'm back to myself. Okay? So that's why I think the question is, what mental issues do I struggle with? So manifestations of suboptimal mental health. So I'll take the first few. If you look on your sheet, you can see irritability, forgetfulness, aggressiveness, and the need to control everything. So I'll start with irritability. I think I'll explain that nicely, which is myself after a very long stint of working consistently. And when I go home, I realize very quickly that I run the risk of taking things out on everybody. Either on my children, I'm snappy, I'm irritable, I have a short fuse when my wife is explaining everything to me, and I have to find a way going into a coping strategy at that point to be able to keep myself safe or keep others safe from me at that time until I fully recover. I'll pass forgetfulness and aggressiveness to my wife.
Well, maybe it's interesting because I can relate to forgetfulness. Although as a kid growing up, I was told I could forget myself somewhere, which is the extent of my forgetfulness. But I find that when I'm stressed, I forget things too. And the kids have said before, "Oh, I hope you don't forget us." You know, my daughter puts reminders on my phone. But the ability to remember things, just forgetting things is one manifestation. And then increased aggressiveness. And it's not necessarily physical aggression, but mental, verbal. When people raise their tone, sometimes it's a form of stress. Raise the volume of their voice. I mean, sometimes some people are loud, we're louder than others, but sometimes if someone's talking to you and they just seem aggressive, it may not be that they don't like you or they're trying to harm you, it just could be that they're stressed, they're scared. Fear often shows as aggression.
So, not all aspects of mental health issues are bad. So I want to speak about the need to control everything. I'll skip excessive anger, and I'll move to excessive worry. So when I operate in the operating room, and in the operating room, I need to know everything that's going on. I need to know what the anesthetist is doing at any point. I need to know what the scrub nurse is doing. I need equipment to be handed to me at the right time. I need everything to work because I want to give the patient who is asleep the best possible outcome. That is probably a direct reflection of some kind of mental health issue. But in the operating room, it works perfectly well. Would you agree? If you were the patient asleep, would you agree? But if I go home and I need my wife to speak to me in a certain way, I need my children to show up when I call their name within 10 seconds, I need everybody to sit down at the table at a particular point in together, that is a problem. So the need to control everything is that. And then excessive worry. If I ruminate and run through every single step for a particular procedure the day before, and every single bit of equipment I'll need, that is great. Because when I get to the OR, I ask the OR nurse, do you have this? Do you have this, okay? But if I show up here, and we've planned something, and like church typically can be, not everything is, Pastor C will identify with this. Not everything is in the right place at the right time. And then I lose it because that is not the case. That
then other manifestations of, suboptimal mental health could be poor sleep. And a lot of us excuse that away with, oh, I'm busy, oh, life is busy, oh, since I have kids, I don't sleep well. But we know that sleep can be therapeutic. God made sleep for a reason. The Bible even tells us in Genesis that he made everything for 6 days, and on the 7th day, he rested. It may not be that he fell asleep, but he at least chilled, he relaxed, he, took a deep breath. And sleep affords us that opportunity. Now, one of the things that, and I just think I should talk briefly about this because a lot of times it comes up in my day, and I always try and just drop information that I think might help people. One of the things that prevents us from sleeping as much as we could, one, the phone. The UV light on it has been proven to keep your brain active even when you are asleep. So, it's a challenge to us all and to myself, which is what I've been trying to do for a few years, to switch off from the phones a few hours, an hour or two, sometime before you intend to go to bed. Or the computer, or the laptop, or the TV. That's one thing. Now, the other things that affect sleep, but I'll leave that and move on. The other manifestations of suboptimal mental health could be reduced functioning. Just not being able to get all the things done that you need to get done. And then it shows up in work, meeting deadlines, not being able to meet deadlines, struggling and then excusing it away. It could just be that you're tired and you need to rest, or you need to take some time off. I keep saying to myself and to a lot of people, if you drop dead today, the work will continue. They will cry, they'll be sad, but the work will continue. So work is not an excuse to keep on going until you can't go anymore. So the other ones are things that I think affect children particularly, and I feel the need to just bring that in because some of us have kids at home at different ages. Withdrawal, social withdrawal. Let's just be careful when your teenager withdraws more into themselves. Be aware of their friends, what's going on in their lives. And the problems with authority, especially with the boys. Sometimes that's an indication that a lot more is happening in school that you know. Just them questioning the rules in the house. The things that you've taken for granted before, them just finding it difficult to meet those deadlines. It's important, and sometimes it's not just that they're being rebellious teenagers, it could be a manifestation of their anxiety. Because teenage years are really anxious times. That's when people develop themselves. And so we all struggled with it. If you remember what you were like as a teenager, then times all that stress by 200 now. Because unfortunately they have social media, they have these standards that are given to them. You've got to be this way or you'll be cancelled. I mean, there's so much terminology we hear at home from our kids, and like, what does that mean? So there's so much information overload that they get. So if your teenager is playing up, just have a sit down with them to find out what's the reason why they're doing that, and you might be surprised at what comes up. Okay, so we'll move on very quickly because we want to leave time for questions and comments from others on ways to improve our mental health. So we've talked about how suboptimal mental health manifests and how it affects all of us. Now, what can we do physically to improve our mental health? Apart from if you have a diagnosis, do whatever the doctor says you should do. So this is not saying that you shouldn't follow your doctor's instructions if you have a diagnosis. But generally speaking, how can you improve your mental health? The first one is the Word of God. And we found that very useful, particularly in our lives. We've gone through bumps in our lives where we've been so stressed about things happening, work, kids, ourselves, different things. And we find that the one thing that helps us is in the morning when we do our Bible study before we leave, God always manages, doesn't he, to give us a word that's relevant. It's amazing how it is. It's just always relevant for what we're going through. And sometimes that word is the only thing that takes us through the day. So if you constantly expose yourself to the Word of God, you'll find that the Word of God says, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. The Word of God says, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. You find that you come across the place that says, I delight in you, I rejoice over you. I have loved you with an everlasting love. You find a place that says, if God be for us, who can be against us? Or what can be against us? You find a place that says, if the enemy comes against me, he will raise up like a standard, the Spirit of the Lord against him. So there's so many things that God has put in his word. And somebody told us one time that there are 365 fear nots in the Bible. So there's no way you read the Bible and you will not come across fear not. So that's the first one. Then the other one is meditation and worship. And that's a really wonderful one. I'm so glad for the time we had. Thank you, Linda. It was so beautiful that you did it just before we spoke. Because you demonstrated it. Because when you come into the presence of God, and you don't have to have the perfect voice or know the song, but when your heart connects, the Holy Spirit is able to encourage you. If you're a Christian, if you have a relationship with God, God has that He's put inside you, that He can encourage you to lift you up, to counter the fear, to counter the depression, to help you put into perspective His love for you. But if we don't take that time out, then we lose up on that. The meditation bit comes after the word. If you read the word, it's only useful if you think about it after you've left. Or if you let it come back to your mind when you need it. So it's not just to read and think, I've read my Bible today, but to let the word go with you in everything you're doing. And then the worship, I find it, really encouraging. It really doesn't matter to me what kind of music it is. Country, slow, fast. I just love to dance. And for me, I find that dance is therapeutic. For me, maybe it's the African in me. But I'd like to encourage you, just move from side to side. You find that it's actually very useful. Physical exercise,
Yeah, well, God helps me with physical exercise. I think what the literature says is 30 minutes a day, 3 times a week. And what I would recommend strongly, we started it in COVID because we were worried about the mental health issues that would emerge, is going for a walk every morning. And if you can go for a walk every morning, I think the combination of the fresh air and also the movement, I think it does wonders. And I found it changes your perspective. So I highly encourage that. For those of you who want to move to other levels, you can do high intensity exercise, and I think high intensity depends on your baseline. So what each of us want is something that will make you sweat. So my high intensity may be different from your high intensity, but once you're sweating, it is high intensity. So whatever will make you sweat. Service and volunteering, what we do here in church, is an excellent example. That gives of yourself and helps manage any mental health issues. Hobbies are very powerful, and what we're all doing this morning, which is interacting, social interaction, saying hello to those on the tables next to you, chatting, saying hello to Rocco at the front, coming to meet people, that's great. For me, what I found that really helps me cope, the things I found are the social interactions, family dinner time, one-on-one time chatting with my children, And also, I carefully monitor my screen exposure. So I'm cautious about how much. I already get a lot of screen time going through the computer at work. So once I come home, at 10 o'clock, I stop. And then I don't do it anymore. So that at least I can give my brain a break until the following morning.
So, I mean, that's just a brief overview of things that we can do to improve our mental health. Do you have any questions? Or does anyone want to share? Yes.
I'm surprised, Maria. Usually we can hear your voice. Having been in a home group with you.
No, I'm just saying that most people watch news at 11 o'clock at night. And so sometimes we get with the fact that my sleep is having issues with sleep.
You are probably not going to be able to sleep immediately after because you're watching it. But what we find is if you delay your sleep time, and then don't do anything for about half an hour, 45 minutes, after you sleep, when you go to bed, you're more likely to go to deep sleep or less quicker. But if you go straight from the TV to bed, you're going to stay awake for a while. So what happens is like if you have to watch the news at 11, then you don't plan to sleep until say midnight, after midnight. Hopefully you get some time. Well, hopefully you don't have to get up early in the morning.
No, I try not to.
Hopefully you get some time. But the screen does
The flickering light, it stimulates you, and so you're less likely to completely relax afterwards. It's better to read, because reading is more likely to bring you down and bring down the brain, so that you'll be more likely to slip into sleep.
That's what I actually do because I do always read something that I can fall asleep. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For somebody who, say, someone's got, like some of the stuff you've been talking about, just you've got anxiety about your kid's future, making wrong choices, or you've got stress about work, somewhere in there. What are some things, practical things that people can do right then and there as they're feeling anxious or feeling worried? Can you suggest anything that will help them bring ease to the worry or the stress in that moment, to just kind of find some relief?
So the question is somebody who's got a lot of anxiety, either about their children making the right decisions, or about stuff happening at work. What are the practical things you can do to address it? So I'll speak from personal experience. My wife has drawn my attention to it. I can get quite anxious about the decisions my children make. And so sometimes when they've done something and I can see and recognize my anxiety going up, what I will do is I will speak to my wife and say, I will not discuss this issue, why don't you handle it, until I know that I have pulled off. So either 24 hours, and many times it helps because she will go and speak to them about it, and then I will find out that if I'm taking them somewhere in the car, it will come up. But this is 24 hours later. Stuff has happened, I've gone to work, I've done this, and I can address it in a more relaxed tone, because what they will pick up will be my anxiety, my tone of voice, and the content is lost. And I think the work too, we do that. We're encouraged to try to employ the 24-hour rule. if your colleague upsets you, really upsets you, don't address it there and then. Go home and give 24 hours and then come back again to the issue, and you will find that the emotion is gone, and what will be left will be content, and content is usually much more beneficial. Any other?
So I'm a mental health professional as well. I don't want to impose on you guys. Just to complete something that you said, something practical, because the person asked something practical. So I've been to mental health issues myself. I had anxiety and panic attacks for a few years. And that's how I ended up studying mental health after. And few practical things that you can do when you are in an acute state. So when you feel that your heart starts racing, you're ruminating, you cannot stop your thoughts at night before you go to sleep and so on. There are some things that you can do to help, and the first thing is a breathing exercise. You need to slow down your heart, and you need to slow down your thought, and because the mind is very connected to your body and to your soul, yes, everything is connected, that's how God created us. You cannot heal your mind if your body is not in a correct state, and if your soul is not in a correct state. The first thing that you can do is a breathing exercise, and it's called the box breathing, and you breathe, you try it first with 5. That's how I teach the kids, so the kids can breathe from 1 to 5. Adults can do it from 1 to 7 if you can. So how it works? You imagine a box. You inhale, counting from 1 to 5. Then you hold, counting from 1 to 5. Then you exhale, counting again from 1 to 5. And then you hold again. So we go from the 4th side of the box, and you breathe. And you slow down your heart. Your brain will focus on the breathing at that point, and it will relax as well. And this is something that helps in that acute stage. Now, if it's something really, really bad, and you cannot control, then I'm sure you know about the ice bucket. So you immerse your face in very cold water. Better if you have ice at hand, and you put your face in ice water. That will relax your vagus nerve and will help you instantly. It will give like a shock to your brain to relax. And it will help you unfocus from that thoughts that were bothering you. And also, because everything is so connected, as I mentioned, you cannot have an optimal mental health if you have some, for example, vitamins that are lacking in your body. For example, magnesium. Most of us here, 100% we go, and after Fola orders some lab work for us, most of them will have a lack of magnesium, lack of omega-3, lack of vitamin D, and this, all of them, they influence how we sleep, how our body reacts to stress, and everything is connected. And also, we cannot go and have a very good night's sleep if our spiritual life is not okay. Yes, if you have worry, and that's why the Bible says, give everything to God. Give it to God and go to sleep. So your worry is the one that makes you ruminate at night, and you cannot find peace to have a deep sleep. But if you're interested about more practical advice, like I have a ton of exercise that I do with the kids, breathing exercise and meditation, but not that yoga stuff that we are not very fond of as a church, I'm sure. But meditation as staying in the present, you are in control of your thoughts, don't give the opportunity to your thoughts to go so much in the future, stay in the present.
Thank you so much for that. We have wonderful talents in the house. So if you want more information, just speak to her. I'm sure she can help you. Any more questions or additions? Oh, yeah.
Do you want to come up to the mic? Maybe. Thank you.
If you've been diagnosed with depression and have been prescribed medication, it's a two-part question. How long should you be on that? And like, how do you know? And how can you wean yourself off the medication?
Right, so yeah, if you've been diagnosed with depression, the question is, if you've been diagnosed with depression, how long should you be on medication? We know that if you have depression that's sensitive to medication, you need to plan to be on medication for at least 12 months, 1 year. It's not like an antibiotic, you take the first month script and then you stop and fine. Because you actually don't feel the effects of you beginning to improve for 6 weeks. So you have to plan to be on it for 1 year, and then the way we wean off it is when you feel that, yes, I'm fine, everything is under control, I'm ready, you have to talk to whoever prescribed it to you. Please don't stop your medication on your own, because if you have to go back, you're going to have to then be on it for much longer. So if you speak to whoever prescribed it, your psychiatrist or your family doc, just tell them, well, I feel ready. Usually what they'll do is, okay, let's get an objective assessment. They'll give you some questionnaires or so to fill. They'll talk to you, see how you are, and then they'll tell you how to gradually reduce the dose. It can be over a month, it can be over 6 weeks, depending on how long it took you to get to a state of feeling I'm fine. And then they'll wean you off the dose and then check up on you. And we also give advice on what you can do to support yourself while you are getting off. And I'd like to say this, that none of the medication, well, that's not true. Most of the medications that we give for depression are not addictive. The ones that are given for anti-anxiety, those are the benzodiazepines, which we have a lot of them, the Rastam Ativan, those are the ones that are addictive. And they don't really work. The ones that work are not addictive if you use them properly. The only times you run into trouble are when you do it on your own.
The other thing about the length of time you need to be on medication is it's important to treat the root cause. So if the depression is reactionary because of circumstances, it would be sensible not to wean off the medication if the circumstances are still there. If the circumstances are temporary and they've been lifted or they've been eased, I mean, if it's like for a bereavement, I would hope that the person who's been bereaved now has social support in place to support them before you think about weaning off the medication. And if the depression is clinical depression, you can't find any tangible reason, I mean, I think it would be unlikely that weaning off would work in that instance. Any other questions? Yes. I think. Oh, you got a loud voice. Yes.
I work with the kids in here. As a Christian, speaking personally, I was scared to go to the doctor, and I knew I suffered from suffering, and I was suicidal. I have a chemical imbalance. It was a precious woman from this church when I first started coming here that said to me,
emphasize what you said, really, that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength. It is a sign of strength to recognize that you need help and to ask for it. So I'd just like to encourage everyone, if you think you do, speak to someone.
I have a question. So let's see if I can speak loud. No. Can you hear me? No. So I was put on medication back in 1990 for depression. But what I found with the meds, I was sleeping a lot. Even if the dosage went down, I would sleep. I have a job. I can't sleep on my desk. I don't get paid for sleeping. Sorry. So I don't take them. I take them when I feel that something's hitting my life. Like I don't think it's more of a physical, it's more of what happens around me that I don't have any control of. Going through, my husband was sick for 4 years, and now I'm dealing with the fact that all I see is sickness in front of me. So I can't take the meds because I'll sleep at work. But the other way is I'm doing it with God. I've gotten so close to God in the past 2 years that I've never been before. I've been a born-again Christian for 40 years, but it was 1 year for 40 times. And now I can say I truly have a relationship with God, and that's not the very best for me. To have anxiety and depression, because that's of the devil and not of God. God gives us a sound mind full of peace and joy. So every morning that I wake up, I choose to be happy. I choose to be thankful and count my blessings, because He is an awesome God. I have my pills, I keep them there, but if I ever go to, overboard, I know they're there, but I haven't taken them. Even through this time, I have not reached out for the bottle of pills. And God has been through it all this time. I have emotional where I get anxiety, where I'm happy. Even if I'm happy, I get too excited. So I need to tone that down. I know, how can I get that? To keep myself on balance.
Right. So what I want to say, well, an answer to that is the medications have side effects. There's no medication that doesn't have side effects. I'll be honest with that. But sleepiness is just one of the side effects of some of the medications. Some of them work the other way. They keep you up. So there are medications that will keep you alert. And you're like, I can't sleep on this. Then you have to take it off that and put them on another one. So not all depression and anxiety medications cause sleepiness. And then if you're feeling too excitable, if it's interfering, there's nothing really wrong with being excitable and happy. We could all do with that, actually. But if you feel it's interfering with your life, or if it's out of place when you're concerned.
I'm just wondering if I come across always being so happy and always so positive, that people's like, what is wrong with you? And I feel there's something wrong with you.
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. And it's important that we have to be comfortable to express yourself the way you want to. And it's a challenge for all of us, really. Just express yourself. We make us different, all different. Some of us are very, cool and calm and collected. Some of us are really loud and expressive. We're all children of God, and this is the perfect place. Amen. I hope I have Pastor Steve's permission to say that. To be yourself. So you can be happy, you can be positive. People could do with a dose of positivity. Your positivity. Yeah. So please don't show you that. Any more questions?
Just wondering for teenagers, because there's a lot of that they deal with day in and day out. How could, as adults, we reach out and help them? Because between the bullying and everything else that they're faced with, and the peer pressure, I feel they need more help.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good question. Thank you for asking that. I think the first thing I think we need to realize is that teenagers today have a harder time than we had. And I think if we say that to them, then that is building a bridge, and that is already empathizing with them. So when I was a teenager, the minute I finished school, if I wanted any kind of entertainment, I have to go out and go and look for a friend. That already moves me out of the house, down across the neighborhood to a friend's house. So I'm interacting with another human being, probably will be playing outside, that's fresh air. And so that was just different. There was no mobile phones. The TV where I grew up would maybe play 1 or 2 reasonable shows a week, so I would only get to see them for half an hour, once or twice a week. So there was none of that stimulation. So they have a harder time. There's too much distraction, and so we have to empathize with them. That's the first. The second, I think, is there's no one size fits all. I think we have to tailor. A teenager's life is dependent heavily on their social circumstances around them, and so we have to know what is going on in their lives. Do they have a home to live in? Do they have parents that care about them? If they're not living with their parents and they're living with somebody else, then that introduces different dynamics. Do they have friends around them? So we have to know. So I think we have to ask and seek information first before we offer any single opinion, because we have to know more about what is happening around them. The third thing is, irrespective of who the teenager is, I think structure matters. Everybody needs some degree of structure. So when the Bible talks about Jesus, the 2 verses for structure that come to mind are, the first was, they said, he went back after he was 12 and he went to the temple. Then he went back home and was subject to his parents, and he grew in wisdom. When he was older and he was in his 30s, the Bible says, early in the morning he went out to pray, as was his daily habit. So all of us need structure, whether you are 100 years old or whether you're a teenager. So somehow we have to put structure in their lives. And then I think the fourth thing I would say is encouragement. And I think that's the fourth thing. I think, and I'm preaching to myself now, I think before we complain or tell off anybody for doing something wrong, I think we should look for at least 2 or 3 things they've done right. And the minute we see any of our teenagers catch them doing anything good, we should magnify it as if the whole world is going to come to an end, and rave about it. And I think that will stop them in their tracks, really. Because the next thing they will do is they will crave that, and they will want more of that. And that's a very strong, powerful, positive influence. I'll see if there's any more.
Can I just add one? I just want to add one thing to that I have found to be relationship changing with my teenagers. I always want to pull them into what I want to do all the time, because it's what I enjoy. But when you take a minute and step into their world and allow them to teach you, I do not love Roblox. Anybody know what Roblox is? Preteens who do. They don't love it at all. But my son said, "Do you want to play Roblox?" And I went, "Okay." And he was so excited to teach me about the worlds that he has built within this video game. And he loved that I knew nothing. It was okay. He didn't love how much I sucked and couldn't keep up. But just if you can take a minute, as hard as it is, and just step into their world, it will open up more doors for conversation and relationship.
That's so true. Because they're able to make that connection, and you'll be amazed at the information that you'll get when you spend time, especially when they know it's deliberate time that we're spending with them. At least that's been our experience with our kids. Thank you very much. very much.